Sorry, let me grab my paperwork. Guys, Angelo, how are you? Monday Night News. Dream Team's back. Stevan and Angelo.
Hi, everyone.
Stevan. Guys, great to see you all this evening. And look, tonight, we're not going to harbour too much on about real estate topics too much, but we're going to talk about something that Angelo and I have had the pleasure of working with. I guess I've been here now for over 10 years with Novak Properties. Angelo, even a little bit longer than me. Angelo, how long have you been?
Close to 16, 17 now.
16, 17 years. And we've seen a lot of change. We want to talk about the changes that have occurred in DY. And some of that reflects also the Northern Beaches as well. So we're just going to talk loosely about what we've seen. For DY, has it been good? Has it been bad? And I guess our own feelings on that. And then 2020, it's been an interesting year.
Yep.
How's it going to finish up is a topic that we're going to jump into very, very shortly as well for you guys. Look, if you do have any questions here, just follow us on our Facebook page at Novak Properties. Jot in any questions, love to answer those and get things going for you guys. But look, Ange, God, DY has changed a lot. I know you're a local boy. You grew up the road. I grew up not far from here as well. Changed a lot since we were kids. I was going to say, I had an interesting chat with Glenn from the team today as well. But DY, let's just take a snapshot of maybe the last 5 years. In 2016, there was a census report out that had the population of DY sitting at 21,500, roughly, a little bit more, but say 21,500 residents living within the suburb of DY. Since 2016, we've seen a lot of big development. Angelo, obviously, Meriton highlighting the most recent, but the Oceana development, Osprey development, Carlisle, the other more boutique ones. Well, how many new properties do you think have come in since 2016 into DY?
Well, I think that's going back on the figures you just mentioned, that's population itself. But going back at even at the census, in 2001, 2002 it was actually, there was a big growth. Basically, DY had a massive flux of properties back in the mid-70s. Now, a lot of Sydney did, but that was, if you look at your typical red brick, cream brick, which for any buyers that are looking at the moment, it's a very common question asked, how old is this building? And it's we feel like sometimes we're breaking records, literally repeating the same. It's all those red bricks, cream bricks. It's a very, very small era of that 1967, 68 to about 73. Then you saw a big gap, and there's actually not many buildings that were built in the 80s or even the 90s. There are some which were built over doubles and triple blocks in DY. There's one developer in DY which actually built quite a few of them in the early 90s. And then there was the next lot of properties. They've got phase of properties which were built in the late 90s, around the 2001, 2002, which back then from 98, 99 to about 2003 was an absolute booming market, as a lot would know that were buying back then. So from a census that was done just after that, there was in DY recorded just over 8,500 residences, houses, apartments in general. So all the old buildings that were built, there's 8,500. After the 2016 census, that number jumped to 9,350 odd. So in all those years, we only saw about 800, 900 new properties in DY.
And most of them since 2016. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, this is up to 2016. Now, since then, you've got Meriton. Yep. You've got Meriton, which are about 350 properties. You've got Osprey, which is another 130 odd properties, and then you've got Carlisle, another 85. Now, they're the three other biggest developments you almost say in DY. Collectively, all those people have been saying, "Oh, buildings going crazy in DY," but all up, we're sitting at almost about 500 properties only that are added to a total of 9,300 that were anyway to begin with. So it's that the amount of people moving into these properties as well, because a lot of them are being sold pretty quickly. Even when time came, then there was half a building was practically empty, ready to be tenanted possibly. Because a lot of people bought them were investors. From the moment, I remember Carlisle, block of 85 units, every apartment in there that was for rent was rented from week 1 to week 5. The whole building was finished, rented. So so things were still moving, yeah.
I was going to say, so what about an increase of, since 2016 to today, 600 new properties? Less?
I reckon about 600.
600, right. So 600 population growth in DY over the same period has grown by about 3,000 residents. So living in DY. So this huge increase of people, not a huge increase in real estate when you take a look at what Angela just mentioned, the history of the suburb, but 3,000 more people living in the suburb today than there were 4 years ago. And most people would think, oh my God, it's getting busier. But you know what? I'm a fan. I think what they've done in the town centre is phenomenal. And so it's brought that attention. For those of you that do know the suburb, it's tidied up that pocket, the Meriton Lighthouse development, and then with it, and with all these other developments as well, a lot of people don't understand that when a developer builds a project, they need to pay a fee to council called a contribution fee. The purpose of this contribution fee is to be reinvested back into the suburb to provide infrastructure in these areas. And you're seeing this now around DY. Redmond Road Plaza was updated. The walkway from Pittwater Road all the way down to DY Beach on Howard Avenue, it's fully paved. There's new plants going in, the new playground, the Walter Gore playground. So there's all of these added infrastructure and lifestyle infrastructure. You know, it's not necessarily something that's making money for everyone, but it's something that's contributing to a better, I think, quality of life.
Howard Avenue, the child park at Howard Avenue, the beach front was redone twice.
Yeah, and they're doing it again now. There's some development down there.
Yep. So that's a big thing. You know, looking at that's DY. So you look at a growth in what DY had all those years. We're talking about the population's gone up only 10-15%.
Yeah.
Things that interest me is suburbs like Brookvale, being a neighbouring suburb here. And I remember that 2001 census, this is an interesting one, was 1,550 people in that suburb. Lived in all of Brookvale.
1,500.
In 2009 census it was. So it was like the following, I think it's called 2 censuses. I don't know how frequent so 2 censuses after that number jumped to just over 4,500. So it just shows you like suburbs, like streets like Shackle Avenue, the entire street which was built, Brookvale Avenue, and a lot of those units, because they're all Brookvale does not have that 1970. So the building there only really happened after the 2000s. So and that's where you see such a population change. An increase of 300% compared to a 15% in DY.
Yeah, wow. I was going to say something else, but I think we talked about on Saturday afternoon. The beachfronts, like obviously the Northern Beach is known for its beaches, beautiful beaches. Now as the weather's warming up, everyone loves to get down there, whether it's for dinner or during the day. But we were talking, Angelo, how many beaches there are on the Northern Beaches that you can actually go and sit down and have a meal, or you can have a drink, or you can, relax for lunch. There's not that many that have dining right on the beachfront. And I think we came down and we were talking, there's you, myself, Mark, James from the office were talking, saying that really when you think about it, there's Manly Beach, which is such a hub, I guess, for the Northern Beaches. It's probably the most globally recognised beach. But outside of Manly, pretty much DY is the only beach where you can get to, and you can literally almost be right on the beachfront having a meal with family and friends. And DY, it's got a slightly more community feel to it. Obviously, Manly being the size of Manly, it's great for business, but again, it loses a little bit of that authenticity. Whereas I think DY still holds that. There's family businesses on the beachfront that have been there for decades, and it's still got that charm. So I think DY has done well. I think it's done really well. Definitely. And Angela, what do you reckon in the future of DY? There's still a little bit of development to come. But
look, we were saying this probably about 3-4 years ago, where your main streets of DY going down your Oaks, your Howards, your DY parades, Pacific parades, there's not much development that you can possibly happen there.
Yeah.
We've had a few people, and there are a few small blocks that could potentially one day be developed. or be bought out, I should say. But the zoning there and the height restrictions that you can actually build and what you can get on these blocks, it's actually not worth it for a developer to pursue those. By the time you literally pay a whole, a couple of units or unit blocks of premium to then put them all together to only get a certain amount. So there are quite a few buyers, and I've been personally called in actually over the past to some unit block owners thinking that, oh, we're going to get a developer in here we're a small block. They're going to hopefully buy us the next door out. And we're not seeing that. I think where the big money is to be spent in DY is still down the main strip.
Yeah.
So they've only just touched on it now with Meriton, with the Carlisle building there, and also Osprey across here. But there's still a lot of development, I believe, that's still going to be happening in years to come.
Yeah.
For money, I think council might not be maybe too far away in probably the next 5 to 10 years.
What do you mean?
That whole council area, that car park area, the library area.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen to that in years to come. But it's going to be pretty much down here the street at the moment. I mean, there's 2 new blocks and new developments here. There's the Havana, and there's also the Delmar here opposite our office that are coming to DY. But putting those 2 together, you're still talking about 180, not even 200 units there between the 2 of them.
Yeah.
So it's still a very, very, very small portion.
And I think also touching on this as well, if you want modern living, newer developments along the northern beaches, DY's really the suburb to come to. There's been a little bit in Manly Vale, but a lot of that's main road focused. A little bit in Brookvale's picking up. Obviously, Brookvale will be a suburb of change.
Yeah.
But really, if you want a modern, when I say modern, up to say 10 years of age property, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, you got to come and look at DY.
Yep.
So it's a good one.
I agree.
It's a good one. What about real estate agents? Have we helped that in any way? Have we helped or have we hurt the reputation of DY? I don't know. I think we always sing the praises of the suburbs that we work in. I like to think we help.
I think people don't like change, and like I miss going down as a kid to DY and seeing sort of the old the old Flumbarker stuff. And I remember sports used to run into Mike Paulies back then when he used to be in that place, and you look at the old Spotlight, and you look at what DY was, and even going back further around those days as well. Good old when we started going out, the good old Jet Club.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about that the other day.
Yeah,
but in regards to sort of what I obviously with change and look at Meriton, I remember being first involved with talks. This is back at Multiplex days when Multiplex actually owned that site, and we're going to and they were the ones that were pretty much putting a lot of the plans in through council, and just a pushback overall through public with that having that there, and it's just amazing to see. I think over the years, selling so many units to downsizers that have actually bought in there, that are locals, that I can almost tell you that pretty much a lot of them were actually against the whole, development in the high. And it's almost now it doesn't even, I don't know, it doesn't resonate. Like no one ever thinks about it. Yeah. So
it's a good thing. Everyone's taking it pretty well. So there you go, DY. It's improved. I think it's definitely into its next phase of what it offers. It's changed since we were little kids' age, but change is part of life. So I think good things down there. The market now, I guess a big thing we were talking about as well is where does the market go between now and the end of 2020? And who can believe, God, it's now the end of September, it's nearly October. It's been a long, eventful year. Obviously, a lot of things going on outside of our control, outside of everyone's control. But the property market, where's it going to go? Ange, what are you seeing? What are you thinking out there? Like, what are you seeing week in, week out now? I guess take a snapshot of the last 3 weeks in your mind. What have you been seeing?
I've actually now finally put my finger on actually knowing where a lot of these, what's making people transact property at the moment. And it's actually COVID, but it's COVID I don't think it's COVID financial related, because a lot of people, when they think, people are selling, and it's a big common question. A lot of people are coming there expecting to buy a property going, the owner's possibly in a bit of strife financially, could we get it? But the reason I'm finding a lot of transactions that are actually being made is COVID, as in they've now been forced to work from home possibly for the next year and a half or year. And they're actually, I can't live with two kids stuck in a space where we're confined in a 2-bedroom apartment. We need something bigger. And I'm finding, I mean, I just had a sale on Thursday where they bought another 2-bedroom unit in the same suburb on the other side. Obviously, a higher price tag, a much bigger 2-bedroom that actually offered
someone sold a 2-bedroom to buy a 2-bedroom.
Correct. Just had a bigger, an enormous living area with a separate dining where they had that more space, and it was that lifestyle closer to the beach where they go, you know what, this is great. We can get out and go for a bit more air compared to being more closer to the main road in a smaller one. So it's that's a type of, I've got a place in the market at the moment in Kingsway there where it's a 2-bedroom plus a guest room. And that third room, I was having a good chat with a buyer the other day about it where they go, oh, the owners bought it for such and such. And I go, yeah, but you know what? When they, at that sort of time in the last 3 or 6 months, that guest room has just gone up in value because people needing that study now. Like it's not like we've got an extra room. Like now we need that room.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing how the need for people to be buying and selling is actually
picking up.
Just picking up overall. And we're also having let's see what's going to happen now in the next couple of months with regards to lending. And I mean, something we've been hearing as well, speaking to people in the bank, and I know it's out in the media as well regarding the banks are most likely now over the coming months going to be loosening up their criteria with regards to lending, and what's it called, the responsible lending. Yeah. So doesn't seem like, and they put so much in place to actually put it in. I don't think they're going to be getting rid of the whole thing, but it's going to be, I believe, getting actually just a little bit easier to actually get access to a bit more money, and they're not going to be knuckling down on you every single dollar you're spending.
The government, like as always, it's in their interest to have a property market that's moving, a fluid property market, whether it's upsizing, downsizing. There's obviously a lot of revenue the state government makes with stamp duty, and I think it's probably a good thing as well.
So what's your take for the rest of the year?
One thing I've seen a lot of recently, and I've been involved with a larger scale development up in Warriewood, I've seen a lot of outer area buyers, and probably ties into what you just said, Angelo. People looking for more that lifestyle move, not having to work so close to town as they did 18 months ago, 12 months ago. I see a lot of people moving into the beaches out of area. When I say out of area, typically Northern Beaches homes were being bought by people already on the Northern Beaches. I'm seeing a lot of people even transitioning from the eastern suburbs into kind of the kind of more in the Balgowlah, but even Forestville, coming from Chatswood, French's Forest, that market. We're seeing a lot of buyers that traditionally wouldn't coming into the marketplace. Doing a lot of work up in Warriewood, I see a lot of St Ives activity, Wahroonga activity, even out to Barowra, those kind of people moving back in to kind of the Northern Beach. A lot of downsizes from kind of the Barowra area. But I'm really being surprised by the number of people out of area that are coming to the beaches. And I think it's a big part is lifestyle. They talked about working from home. That study is now, the study is probably worth as much as the second car space was before Christmas. Like, crazy to believe. But I'm seeing a lot of that, and I think it's going to be a busy year. We ran an auction over the weekend. The team ran an auction with Lisa and her sales team here at Forestville, and it went absolutely crazy over there. And that a nice, I'll use the word modest family home, but it was in very good order, very well kept, beautifully presented. Selling in excess of $2 million over the weekend. I think just sign of the times that people are ready to move on as well. I know with the year behind us, people want to get out there and find that family home now, and the weather's beautiful, and get ready to enjoy summer. So I think it's going to be a really active period between now and the end of 2020, and hopefully 2021 is going to be good out there for us all as well. Yeah. But that's about it that we were going to talk about tonight. Anything else, Ange, that comes to mind that you might have seen?
No, it's just
what about first home buyers in the marketplace? Seeing that pick up yet?
It's picked up incredibly, but there's a slight problem at the moment that I'm finding with a lot of the first home buyers, and the reason being is that a lot of them can only get access to 5% deposits. through NAB or CBA, where they're also the government's doing the lender mortgage insurance, the LMI rebate. A lot of those being capped at 700,000. There's not. That's the sort of borderline of your very, very entry level 2-bedroom unit in DY, and I'm finding a lot of buyers, for the sake of just buying a 2-bedroom unit, they're all crowding in that 2-bedroom unit market at that entry level.
Yep.
Where sort of another way, and just a bit of an idea, I've been speaking to quite a few first-home buyers about this over the weekend. So we've got a couple at the moment for sale in Pacific Parade, which are at that entry level. And is that there's actually a few 1-bedrooms that are at that completely modern 1-bedrooms that have a guest room, or they've got a bit of space for a study, that just for some of you to maybe consider, where you'd be getting a very big, really nice 1-bedroom, that rather than jumping into the entry level 2-bedroom market. But I'm finding a lot of the 2-bedders, a lot of the first home buyers, they're almost stuck at, there's not much there for them, because that is the start of a 2-bedroom market.
Even something we were going to talk about before we forget, rental market.
Yeah, we're not too involved with it, but I had one of
we as individuals, the company clearly is, but
but no, I thought for some reason COVID, people moving out, saving money, going back home, because I know that was the case going back 4 or 5 months ago. But I jumped on for one of my own tenants that unfortunately I sold the property that they're living in, and the buyer that bought it wants to move in. So I'm trying to help them, and I jumped on even to see what's available for sale. And if we think for rent, and I'm shocked with the lack of properties. DY again with 9,500 properties. Right now, if you jump on realestate.com, I saw 55 or 50 properties there's less for rent than actually there is for sale.
Wow.
So it's interesting.
Rental market's good. I've got to take my hat off to our team here as well. They're doing a great job at, everything's renting. They're doing a great job. And I think tying that back into the property market and capital value, investors kind of stepped out of the market because they were worried, if I buy a property with a tenant and they're going to lose their job over COVID and they can't pay their rents. And right now, like Enzo mentioned, there's a bit of a shortage of rental properties. So I think that's going to help investors come back to the market. If you are an investor, there's good news out there that, we don't have a lot to offer tenants, so
money's cheap.
Everything's going, yeah.
Money's cheap. Banks will hope for some, if they do pull back, as I said, just with this responsible lending a little bit.
Yep.
And you can get it. Maybe it's time to go speak to a broker now and to see if you can. And if money's so cheap, you just lock something in for a few years as a principal interest there, and you should be pretty safe to go.
Yep.
So
beautiful.
Cool.
Ange, thank you. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Evie.
Both tonight. And guys, we look forward to seeing you out there in the world of real estate. Of course, any questions, we're always here. Love to help you at Novak Properties. Call, email, text, whatever you prefer. Chat.
Definitely. Enjoy. See you. Good night, guys.